Welcome to the Tech Trends Podcast, where we discuss the latest manufacturing, technology, research, and news. Today's episode is sponsored by IMTS. I'm Maria Lloyd, and I'm here with...
I'm Elissa Davis.
AMT's roboticist, Stephen Lamarca, senior roboticist, lead roboticist.
The man behind the curtains, Benjamin Moses. See, let's get into that a little bit. But before we get into that, since we're talking about IMTS, let's talk about Chicago.
Yes.
And we're going to be there for a little bit. I know Ramia was just there.
Yes. So we went, let's just find it was a couple weeks ago. And we recorded our new series called Chicago Local. It's now on IMTS Plus. Go check it out. And we did a couple of restaurants, and we did a couple of hotels, and then we did some neighborhoods. We walked around, and we just talked about the history of Chicago and how all the fun things you could do after you see all of our wonderful things at IMTS, what you should do after. And it was so much fun. First of all, I am now a Chicago local. So me and Peter are neighbors.
Wow.
I'm the guy that he knows. No.
He's got a guy.
He's got a guy, and now I have a guy. It was really fun. We got to see some of the, I've never been to any of these restaurants, but they all were so good. We got to eat some of the food afterwards, and I was just Michael Mark's doing all the work, and he's filming, and I'm just carrying his stuff around because I'm his lackey. And I was just secretly eating everything at the end. End of the day, so full. Everyone was like, "What's for dinner?" And I was like, "Dinner."
I've been eating all day.
Am I the only one that's been eating all day? Oh my god, it was so much fun. We started with Guinness. Guinness, the Guinness new factory is one of the two in the world.
Like the U.S.-based factory.
Yes, in Chicago.
Awesome.
It's two that's
And
in.
then
So there's one in
That's
Baltimore,
sick.
and there's one in Chicago. But the Chicago one is beautiful. They also have a bakery. So cool. The food is
Okay.
delicious. And then we went. Where did we go after that? We went to a Vec. So Donnie Medea, really cool person. He was in the Bear. Really good food. He used to be the owner of Blackbird. It used to be a
Which
restaurant
closed
in Chicago.
during COVID,
Right. So now
yeah.
he has a Vec. Delicious. There's a
Is it like a
focaccia.
Michelin star restaurant?
I don't know. Let me get back to you. I'm gonna
I think
Google it
Blackbird
while you guys are doing
was.
your
Sorry, I don't mean
articles
to be
later.
bougie.
No, it's okay. I'm gonna
apologize.
Google it while you're doing your articles later, and I'll tell you.
A vec means with in French.
Yes.
Oh, that's really good.
I don't know a lot about French. I took 3 years, didn't pick up a single thing, but I know a vec means with.
And with that, it was delicious.
Nice.
Thank you. Where did we do after that? And then we went to go to Monteverde, which is an Italian restaurant. It was so good. There was this homemade it was a biscuit, and then she put prosciutto in it and goat's cheese. Oh my
Nice.
god, it was so good. And the little sandwich, it was delicious. That sounds amazing. Oh my god, 10 out of 10 experience. And then we went to a bunch of hotels, which are all beautiful, and you should all check them out when you go.
Nice.
Well, everyone's finding out that Chicago's got a great food scene because of the Bear.
The Bear.
Yes.
I finally caved and got Hulu, and I've been watching The Bear. And as if I'm not already excited enough to go to Chicago for IMTS, of course, I'm really excited for the food vibe again. And I think the Bear does a really good job of meeting the bouginess of Michelin star
Absolutely.
dining with the rough, rugged, gritty, blue collar vibe that is the
Yes.
people of Chicago.
Absolutely.
And I remember this goes back to my first IMTS in 2016 when I fell in love with Chicago because I'm a big fan of New York, both sports and just the city. There's a lot of charm to be found underneath all that film.
I mean, Chicago is like New York's gruff uncle.
But it's so much cleaner. And I was this
not
is
wrong.
amazing. But 2016 was a totally different time then, and one of my complaints was this. I love Chicago. It's just a little too clean. I need a little bit more
I feel like there's a lot of people who would say the exact opposite, so it's
Yeah.
really
Never been to New
interesting.
York.
That's
Yeah.
true. New
You're
York in the
not
summertime
wrong.
smells like hot garbage.
Also, my favorite cities, pre-working at AMT, my favorite cities were New York and Baltimore. And Baltimore's underrated. The Wire did it dirty. And let's remember that it's called the Charm City, but I really, Chicago.
Chicago's it.
So we're gonna take a group field trip to Mr. Beef, which is what which is what it's
Monsieur Le Boeuf.
based on. It's like Mr. Beef is like the actual restaurant that they
Yeah.
filmed the pilot there.
Okay.
And it's what like the restaurant is based on,
Okay.
the original restaurant. So we should take a group field trip there. I don't know where it is in Chicago, but
We'll figure it out.
It's not far from McCormick.
okay,
Also,
cool.
Yeah.
just a quick tangent. Carmi, the main character, the bear,
Yeah.
has like his resume, his big line item on the resume is retaining a Michelin star while working at the French Laundry. I've heard of the French Laundry. I've never really looked into it. I finally watched a YouTube video of like some guy. I think his channel is called The Guest,
Yeah.
and he just goes to fancy restaurants. And this guy has a different jacket in literally every shot. Like
That sounds fun.
if
I'd
this
watch
is
that.
leading where it's going. Man, I watched this video and find out. Fast forward, I did see that like the bill that for this two people
Yeah.
he did pay for $1,600.
Yeah.
Oh.
But there was a lot of alcohol and like a lot of old alcohol involved. It's like the wine alone is worth it when you look at that price.
I don't know.
But this is just the bougie side of me speaking, so I'll shut
Okay.
up.
That's my rent.
But I was looking at the friend and just watching this video called me poor on so many different levels.
I mean, to be
Video
fair,
called you poor.
the French Laundry has like a 2-year in advance reservation
But
requirement.
It's, also, like, you look
It's
for
like
people-
insane.
Yeah, and you look at the people that founded it; they're like so humble and cute. Like,
No.
I know their clientele is like super bougie, and those
Yeah.
are the people you want to avoid. But the people that work there seem so incredible. And I know that's not Chicago; and we're off topic, but just wanted
Well,
to say that.
my favorite thing about
I've learned a
Chicago is the improv, the theater scene in Chicago, which has also exploded in recent. I mean, ever since like Hamilton put one of their like home stages in Chicago, I feel like it's definitely brought some more attention to the Chicago theater scene, which is really exciting. But Second City is one of my favorite places in the whole world. It's
What is that?
So Second City is basically one of the birthplaces of improv. So.
Is it a theater?
Yes.
Okay.
So they have multiple theaters within the building, right?
Okay.
So, but this is where like a lot of SNL greats trained, but they also have a home base in Toronto. So a lot of they're like that's where Lorne Michaels knows a lot of the original SNL cast from
Wow.
from the Second City in Toronto. So there's 3 major improv groups in the United States. There's Second City. There's the Upright Citizens Brigade, which it was founded by Amy Poehler and another fellow Second City alum, and then the Groundlings, which is in LA. So Second City is like where you find the best improv, in my opinion. I mean, obviously the Groundlings and Upright Citizens Brigade is great, but Chicago also has multiple other improv places. There's the Annoyance, which is another bar and they do what's called skinprov, which is basically people strip down to their underwear over the course, and it's like people who are new to improv to like make them comfortable on stage.
I feel like that
Wait a
would
minute,
have
the
the
audience?
opposite.
No. The improvisers,
The
the
one
people
on
on
stage.
stage, they're like
How
stripping
is that gonna
down.
help
I
them
was
be
saying, I
more
feel like that would
comfortable?
have the opposite effect because
Yeah,
now
it's-
I'm naked and afraid.
That's going the wrong direction, right?
different
I
show.
mean,
yeah, my bad.
From everything Nickelodeon taught me as a child, like you're supposed to picture the audience being naked.
I
turn the
mean, I
tables
saw
on you.
it, and
Yeah.
it was
Like,
better than I was
never mind.
expecting. There's a couple other ones,
I believe it's amazing.
and I can't remember their names right now, but the Annoyance and Second City are 2 of the big ones. So I'm definitely gonna plan a group trip to Second City this year because
Nice.
I know there's more people who want to go this
I'm
year.
upset that I missed it last year due to unforeseen circumstances.
Due to your Uber kicking you out.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds like a different
Okay, you were
topic.
there.
It was a haze.
Anyway, I'm in if you
Yes.
do a group chat.
Yes, we're definitely gonna go.
Awesome. Thanks. I'm looking forward to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, can you tell us about today's sponsor?
IMTS 2024, inspiring the extraordinary. From around the globe, the industry gathers to discover the latest in innovations and technologies changing our future through advanced and traditional manufacturing, robotics, automation, and digital transformation. Be a part of the change. Register at imts.com.
Thanks from you. Steve, progress is being made on the test bed. I hope.
Okay, so as lead roboticist at AMT, I finally so you know like when let's go back to academia when you were in school. You know like when you're throwing yourself at a really difficult topic, subject or whatever, and it just doesn't make sense at all, and then something finally clicks, and you have that aha moment. I had that again at the ripe age of 35. And it was exhilarating. And I've gotten to a point, I've been able to like control the robot and like move it semi-manually, like through the computer, do something on the computer, and the robot moves, but I'm actively doing something on the computer. Finally got to a stage, and took long enough, finally got to a stage where entered some things and then hit the play button, hit go, and I actually got movement out of the robot. And that was the first major step. And it wasn't where I wanted it to go, and we've since had like a few crashes, but that's not the point. And then this morning, I tested a program that I wrote last night and just made it very simple. I'm acting like this is like lines of code. It might be like at least 3 lines of code. So we're not talking about a lot. But I got the robot to move.
Nice.
Without running into any singularities. And I'm confident in being able to hit a target this week of being able to open and close the Pocket NC enclosure. It's going to take a lot of effort, and it's going to just take a lot of time and throwing myself at it. But now I have 100% confidence in, which is rare, 100% confidence in what I'm doing, and it's cloud 9 right now.
Well,
I'm so excited.
I want to hit on something because one of the things that we're running into is the arm getting to a specific pose, and it basically locking up, hitting a singularity where it doesn't know what to do.
And we just figured out the solution this morning, baby.
Nice. So I think that's a big takeaway that, how we architected the kind of layout.
Yeah.
It's fairly compact because it's a factory on a table.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the drawbacks that we did in terms of planning is we did a lot of like physical planning. So we said the Pocket NC is over here, the robotic arm has to be relatively close.
Yeah.
But we never really got a chance to simulate all that before to see if we're going to run into problems. So we're kind of doing stuff retroactively. So I think it's to
basically do a quick speed run on what happened between the last episode and what happened now on the test bed. We were at a point where we were running into singularities a lot, but there are there's basically 3 ways to program the robot motion. You can either program the motion with respect to the base of the robot, so we're talking in Cartesian coordinates or just a coordinate system in general. Not only it's a mix of Cartesian and polar and or rotary coordinates. I forget what those are called. That's going to bother me. But with respect to the base, with respect to the tool at the other end of the robot, and with respect to the joints. Programming a robot with respect to its base and our tool yield you much smoother, much more fluid movements, and can do it in less lines of code.
That's cool.
But requires higher, more complex math per line of code. And one of the things that Chloe, God bless her, has been throwing herself at is something that Nicholas, our German friend at IGES, has been like really trying to teach us, and he's been doing a great job. Like, we wouldn't have had this aha moment without him, but he's been trying to get us to do a circular motion with respect to the head or the tool of the robot. And that's been causing us to run into a lot of singularities. But it would theoretically yield a really smooth, fluid movement. And part of that programming is, okay, you need to define your starting position, the closed position of the enclosure that the robot is going to grab onto, and not the open position, because that's your target position. That's what you're trying to find, even though you know where it is. You need to find the 180-degree position, which is like the opposite side of the circular path that you're going, of where the 180-degree opposite position of the closed position, that needs to be found and defined, even though it's out of reach and requires nothing but math to find that on your end. And assuming you do all of that right and enter in the coordinates properly into the robot, only then will you get a smooth, cohesive movement. But we've also found out when the joints go from a positive degree and have to pass the 0-degree movement to a negative degree, that's when the other joints are like, oh, this joint is approaching 0, let's twist it around to keep the speed, and then boom, singularity, it's an internal crash basically
Right.
on the robot, and it's just the big robot companies, UR, Fanuc, KUKA, they all sell software for their robots to avoid singularities. And with the IMTS, I figured out, dude, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do these tool movement or tool based or base-based movements. We can, like, when we're about to run into a singularity, we can avoid it by stopping that movement before a particular joint is zeroed out, and then do strictly just a joint movement, just programming the individual joints alone, which is easier than it sounds, to get past that point of singularity, and then continuing a smooth, either linear, which is having the robot move either probably the tool in a straight line, or a circular motion or about an axis. That, again, has to be user-defined. It's not fun. Requires math and measurements and just a lot of writing and whiteboard use, whiteboard real estate. Or just controlling each individual joint, which is surprisingly easy. And that's what we learned today. And
So the big takeaway, Steve, is to break the motion up into several segments.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to summarize it to make sure I
listen,
understand.
it took so much effort to get there. And if I had just said that, you'd be like, oh, big whoop. So it sounds like a 3-year-old could do it. You're probably right. But like,
I'm summarizing in hindsight. That's all.
listen, I just want to shout out to like Brooke Mutin at Kawasaki for being a huge inspiration, and Jessica at Fanuc. I'm sorry I forget your last name. I'll reach out to you on LinkedIn. She was a huge inspiration. These roboticists have been like really helpful. Nicholas, of course, who actually helped with the software. And I also want to shout out to Kyle Salibi of Georgia Tech, which we all love, and Tommy Feldhouse, National Labs. Both of them gave me. I'm not going to say they gave me crap, but like they gave me little statics. Like, Steve, you think programming a CNC machine is difficult? Dude, wait till you get in the weeds on programming a robot.
Yep, now
it's
we're...
like well, I'm there, and I have successfully written a robot program, and still, to this day, haven't written a successful CNC program. So it's officially officially easier. You're wrong. I'm smarter than some PhDs. No, I'm not.
We should move on pretty quick
Drop
from there.
Mike.
Alyssa, I know you've been we've been talking about AI, which is going to be a big topic in general, but tell us what you found out on if it ever makes money.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the big question is AI ever going to make money? So this is a CNN business article, and the title is, Has the AI Bubble Burst? Wall Street wonders if artificial intelligence will ever make money. And this is because, so in the 18 months since ChatGPT kicked off the AI arms race, as they call it in the article.
That's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
That's a solid title.
Tech giants have promised that the technology is poised to revolutionize every industry, and it used its justification for spending tens of billions of dollars on data centers and semiconductors needed to run large AI models. Compared to that vision, the products they've rolled out so far feel somewhat trivial. Chatbots with no clear path to monetization, cost-saving measures like AI coding and customer service, and AI-enabled search that sometimes makes things up. And big tech is relatively slow to show for all their billions spent in terms of significant revenue. So really what it's saying is that these big companies like Amazon and, Microsoft and things like that, it's like, where is the big money that basically they promised from these AI creations? I know it's only been 18 months.
Fair. I have thoughts.
Okay.
Okay, two things. First, I know I've been pro AI, but I've been saying that the big risk in AI is not Terminator 2. It's the fact that these big money corporations are throwing themselves at racing to release the big first AI to market. And that's dangerous because they are throwing money at the development and not throwing money at the safety of AI. That's a major problem. And hopefully the government does more to regulate that. And to some degree, I know that there are a lot of good actors in the AI industry to making sure that that doesn't happen. But I do want to highlight, as somebody that's pro AI and like seemingly a fanboy of AI, that is a major risk, and that is the risk. Secondly, the fact that like we're concerned about, well, AI is not making money yet, and it's like AI is a tool. AI that's like crying. That's like corporations crying about they're looking at their most advanced wrenches and be like, make money, make money. And it's like, no, you have to pick it up and turn it. You have to use it. It doesn't replace jobs. Like nobody. I say this all the time. It's because it's like I feel like it's my quote that I've coined for myself. But like, nobody lost their job to a wrench. You lose your job to somebody that turns a wrench better than you. AI is just a tool. AI, automation, digital tool, they're all just tools. Learn how to use the tools.
Well, and that's what they're saying is that like, so they've put these billions of dollars into these data centers and semiconductors, and all they've got to show for it are these like chatbots.
And
it's so dumb.
You do hit on two key elements, though, I think we should definitely get into. One is, or actually a couple of elements. One is like the hidden cost of like artificial intelligence and machine learning. The computing power required is astronomical. I mean, we still have cutting edge chips that are still, I would say behind the times in terms of how fast they can process this stuff. And to your point, you're setting up massive data centers, and the computing power required to do that, just to your point of a chatbot, is astronomical. And I think it's hitting on two different kind of business models. One is like we'll call big AI.
Yeah.
Large corporations racing to get what they consider a product and the revenue generated from the product. But what I would call local AI or like local problems, I feel like that is where we're getting a lot of value. So, for example, if I'm trying to solve something within my four walls using machine learning or advanced mathematics to solve that specific problem, get revenue off that and move on to the next problem, as opposed to this big, ever-present AI model. I think those are two different business models.
And not even solving the problem outright, but like speeding up the process to a solution.
Yeah.
Like from a writing standpoint, like writer's block is the bane of any writer's existence. And a chatbot, an AI-powered chatbot might not, you're not going to cut and paste the paragraph. Well, hopefully you're not going to cut and paste the paragraph that the chatbot sends out, but it will inspire you just a little bit to help you overcome that hurdle that is stopping you from continuing. And we'll be like, no, rewrite it like this, dummy. Like, and then you've got it. You're past it. It speeds up the whole like, oh my God, sitting on the couch, watching YouTube or playing games with friends because I don't know how to continue what I'm trying to say. Instead, you just throw yourself at a chatbot. You have a few iterations with ChatGPT or Perplexity, which shows you sources, and then you're through it.
I do want to hit on that last point, but
It's a tool.
One of the big hurdles, I think, for most ever-present AI tools is the trust. I still think there's a lack of understanding of how did you get there.
Yeah.
Like if you use some basic writing prompts to guide your writing, you can kind of see the iterations. You can see what you posted versus what you asked for. But if you're asking larger questions where you just get a result, like why would you ever trust that from anyone?
It's like when you're in academics, like whether it's math or history or something, like if you're producing a deliverable to your professor or teacher, they don't just want to see the problem answered. They don't want to just see the essay. They don't want to see they want you to show your work. They want you to cite your sources. And then AI platforms like Perplexity, they're like hardlined programmed to these are the first things you provide, the sources, and you show your work. Then you explain your answer.
I do want to say real quick that the Microsoft CFO, Amy Hood, said that we probably won't see monetization of AI technology until like 15 years or more.
Oh, man.
And the Meta CFO, Susan Lee, basically said the same thing.
Wow.
So
That's
we're
wild.
looking at a long-term investment of, 15, 20 years. And that's why investors are upset, because they're like, when we invest in these things, in these public companies, we're expecting this fast return.
But you know who is seeing the fast return that nobody's talking about? The individuals using these AI tools.
Yeah.
Like I'm holding my job because I have found found how useful AI has been. It's helped me be a better worker.
Yeah. But it's not making the companies money.
This is making me money. It's helping me retain making money.
So I definitely want to move on to humanoid robots. We've been talking about this briefly, and I'm still skeptical about it, but BMW tests humanoid assembly robots from a company called Figure AI. This is from Design News. And on the surface, I'm like, fine. We've been talking about a lot of companies kind of testing that. I think they're trying to figure out is this a thing to latch on, kind of like the AI tool, right? Is this the thing that they want to do? And there's a couple of key elements actually that BMW hits on where there's really fascinating lessons learned about kind of the iterative process towards humanoid robots. I'm still skeptical, but they definitely hit on like the integration of the communication of the robot itself back to the overall system. So they are actually solving
Data.
Autonomous problems, but you're exactly right. They're running into what data needs to be communicated and how to communicate that wirelessly.
Any new robot being brought to market is going to be useless unless the user and owner of it can track the digital thread, the data stream coming off of that robot to make sure it's doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and it's another segment that they hit on is the processing power with the additional data that they want to start processing. So not only are they looking at, of course, similar to a cobot where they have force feedback, they have vision systems, they've got microphones, they've got increased cameras, they've got communication capability. So all of that's got to go through the robot itself and go back to a server or some edge computing to process. So the bandwidth and the computing power is growing exponentially in some of these factories. And the last thing they talk about are like, what are the capabilities? Like, what can a robot do? So
Right.
I think it's a really interesting dive from BMW to look at, okay, this is a cool thing. What are the problems we're going to run into, and what are the capabilities?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I think this is really interesting, and I want to add on to this because, a couple months ago, feels like a couple weeks ago, but a couple months earlier this year, if not late last year, we were talking about the CTO at Boston Dynamics said that humanoid robots aren't going to solve everything. Them being somebody that also makes humanoid robotics.
Right. Yeah.
But they've also gone to other legged robots and like when Amazon was experimenting with Agility Robots Digit, their humanoid robot, they were like, for warehouse work, you mean, especially if all of the warehouses are a single level and they're not going up and down stairs, why would you use a humanoid when you could just get a conventional IMR, an industrial mobile robot, an AMR, an AGV with a robot arm on top of it and pushing around a bin? That's what you need. You don't need to get fancy with a humanoid. But what's interesting about that is contrary to what that Boston Dynamics chief executive said, there's a lot more companies coming out as of late releasing humanoid robots. So maybe we're not seeing it, but there's a demand for humanoid robots there because Tesla is now has released their humanoid robot. I forget the name of it, and now NVIDIA has come to market with a humanoid robot. The more important news there is NVIDIA has released a new silicon chip specifically for controlling humanoid robots. So it's like an what do they call them on motorcycles? An IMU, an inertial management unit, 6-axis IMU. They have those specifically for robots now, and I wouldn't be surprised if that silicon finds its way to the motorcycle industry.
So it kind of sounds like similar to the AI thing, is that it's a race to see who can get the best humanoid robot the fastest.
Right. Well, at least NVIDIA.
Because why does every company need a humanoid robot?
At least NVIDIA's intentions are making money selling superheated sand silicon.
Right.
But I think
At least we know what they're up to.
It's a scenario where they have a technology that they're trying to find some of the problems and that they can solve, but also solve some of the inherent problems with early development of. So let's not be mistaken. Humanoid robots is still in early development. It's not a mature product.
No, they're not far along.
So
The news makes it seem much further along than it is.
Because everybody, all of the 24-hour news cycle, the fear mongering wants to see Terminator happen.
So they still have a ways to go to get past the the hype cycle, the trough of disillusionment, to weed everyone out, get past the fast money. So there's a lot of that where they're trying to get early investment and fast money out of this thing that will probably solve problems.
Yeah.
We're not sure what problems are going to solve just yet. And it's a scenario where you have to look at the different segments where they're applying it. So like at a massive factory, sure, maybe. But then how does that trickle down to like a contract manufacturer that's like $20 million in revenue, $10 million in revenue? Those are a lot of different scenarios where maybe the humanoid robot doesn't necessarily apply, but maybe technologies from that humanoid robot may apply.
Yeah.
So,
That's fair.
Elissa, I think we should talk about are AIs conscious?
So this is from an article from Psychology Today, which I feel like there'll be some like scientists who probably, or like mathematicians who watch this or listen to this podcast will be like, Psychology Today. But I'm a psychology nerd, so I saw this and I was like, that's really interesting. But basically, it boils down to hold on, let me find like the actual. Okay. A living organism is never the same physical and psychological entity from one instant to the next. The computer hardware, on the other hand, remains the same physical structure from the moment it leaves the factory until it stops working or is discarded. So by that principle, AI will never reach a human level of consciousness.
Because it stays stagnant.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So because it can become smarter, right? And it can become more efficient and it can do all these things and potentially it could learn emotion, but it will never actually be human. So therefore it can never actually be conscious, if that makes sense. I'm sure we still run into the fear of like, Ultron, that kind of thing happening. Like,
I think it's a very relevant conversation because there's a relationship back to what the term is called hallucinations within a lot of the chatbots. So when you ask it a prompt, it starts varying in a different direction where it's completely unpredictable. And I think there's a kind of correlation between, the trust model and the basic understanding of this massive AI tool. Like, do we even understand how this works? And to your point of, the hardware may stay stagnant, but what is the definition of like iterations or change of an AI model? And does that parallel like human thinking and our ability to rationalize? Does the AI model exist as a consciousness, or is it just stagnant code? Yeah,
exactly. Because it can only think as far as the code can go.
Right.
Right. So like,
this is interesting because it makes me think of that time Google fired somebody for having claimed that Google's AI is now, what's the word, sentient.
Right.
Yeah. But again, it's like
that AI developer says differently from this article title.
But I think I think what we have to consider is the subject nature of consciousness of sentient. Like, do they think it's sentient because like it's saying that it can feel things, or is it saying that it's sentient because it can actually feel those things? So because it doesn't have this, it doesn't experience human life. It doesn't experience human nature or human experiences. It will never fully reach a consciousness that we have as humans.
Okay, so the first AI conversation made me think of this thing that I saw on the internet. And have you guys seen, it's a necklace that you wear and it's an AI in it and it's called The Friend.
No.
And people in the commercial that I watched, they were like talking to it and it would like text them. And they would be like watching something, and then the AI necklace would like text them and be like, "Isn't this such a funny show?" Like, I don't know. But as soon as you started talking about it, I was like, "Holy crap!" Like, have you guys ever seen the movie Her, where he's like falls in love with this AI who's like Scarlett Johansson, which is like understandable, but like it's so confusing and it's so creepy, and it made me think about it because you just said how like they've never experienced full human emotions, and it's getting like I'm kind of afraid that it's gonna get there. It's like kind of scary.
I can understand like why people think that. I think for me, I just like. I don't know, like, because again, it goes back to like code. It all boils down to this code, right? So like, if it's not coded to feel those things, it's never gonna feel those things.
Right. You and your article make a fascinating point because I feel like I don't belong here. Like we should bring in like an IT, like Sean from IT, who is a network admin. Be like, well, you're only going to get a signal from another computer on the network if you ping that computer first. It's not going to actively ping you on its own.
Yeah.
Don't kill people.
I think one of the interesting thing about AI is that concept itself is never the same. What we considered AI, and like even for video games, the bot that I'm shooting at, I still call it an AI.
Yeah.
Right. It's not the same type of AI that you're going to ask ChatGPT or Gemini or anything like that. But our perception of what we consider AI is fascinating, and it's evolved significantly over most of our lifetime.
Yeah.
And I think that our concept of consciousness related to AI, I think may evolve a little bit too. But I don't know. It's just interesting to see this term itself is doesn't have a firm definition because it constantly changes, and our perception of AI seems fairly stagnant. Also,
Yeah.
Computers are better. Computer programming is better. The general public cannot wrap their head around why they are better.
Yeah.
We call it AI.
right?
That's fair. Personally, I don't think AI is ever going to be able to take over the world just from experiences I've had with AI where like I try to talk to a chatbot and I'm like, you're not understanding what I'm asking you. Or like I was trying to, I have a cash bond from when I was a kid. My mom gave it to me because after 30 years, it, stops accumulating money, right? So I sent it into the treasury, but originally I was like, oh, I can do it through my bank. And so I went into the USA app and I was like, I was typing in like, cashing bond.
Right.
And it kept trying to send me to investment stuff. And I'm like, no.
No.
And like I tried like 4 different times and I was like, this AI does not understand what I'm asking it.
Yeah.
And again, that comes back to coding and I know that, but it's like, I don't know. I just, because what humans feel and what humans experience is constantly changing, we can program that into an AI, but then that will be outdated before we even realize it.
Yep.
Maybe the general public is just nervous about the day that they can't use the nuclear option, which is hitting 0 when talking to a phone bot. They're like, I want to talk to a human. I was like, well, we need to know which department you want to talk to. Zero operator. Let me talk to a human. And then one of these days they're going to send you to a voice activated LLM. And then what's going to be the 0 for that? How do you hit 0 when talking to that thing?
We'll find out.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm going to be nice to all of them.
Be nice, absolutely. No throwing your phones after you
I always
query
say please and
ChatGPT.
thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. You've helped me so much tonight.
Awesome,
Like,
guys.
I
thank
love
you.
you.
Let me know if you have any more questions.
Guys, I think a lot of the topics we hit on are really good feeders for preparing for IMTS. So I'm definitely excited for upcoming show.
It's gonna be a great show, and we'll be live at IMTS, right?
Will we?
Yeah.
A couple of times.
We've got more episodes before IMTS, right?
We'll talk about it.
Okay.
Ooh,
Because
suspense.
we didn't touch on OpenUSD. And on that note, it's time to log off.
Ramia, where can they find more info about us?
amtonline.org/resources. Like, share, subscribe.
Bye, everyone.